Welcome to another video. So in the last video that I did, we started looking at angle pairs in parallel lines cut by a transversal. And in the last video, we talked about corresponding angles. In this video, we'll be talking about vertical angles. So what do we understand by vertical angles? Vertical angles are angles that are across from each other and are formed by any intercepting line. So if you look at the two, parallel lines, can you see any, intercepting line? Of course, I can see one. And then not just only the parallel lines and the transversals, So for example, as we can see in this one right now, we can see that is probably intercepting at some point. And then what can we say about these angles? These angles too, they will be congruent. And then in my last video, we have to watch out for that vocab congruent. As I said in my last video, when you hear the word congruent, it means they will have the same measurement. So for example, let's use that definition to identify what we mean by vertical angles. For example, if you look at this angle right here, is from the word vertical, it's probably is the same as this angle right here. They're the same. So if this angle is A, or let me use X, this angle will be X too. Now, what can you see about let's use the idea that we talked about in the last video, corresponding angles. So remember we said corresponding angles, the easiest way to do it is by saying that one angle is inside and then one angle is outside. So if I use that word of corresponding angles, then I can see this angle right here. This one is X, is outside, and then this one will be X too, because they are both corresponding. As we said in that other video that I made, I said that corresponding angles are angles that lies on the same side of the transversal and on the same side of the parallel lines. And then we said that these angles are on the same corners and they are congruent. So which also means that if this angle is also S2, and using that, vertical angles, these angles will be X2. So in this video, I was able to, use the ideas from, the other video that I made that talked about corresponding angles and, vertical angles. So let's say, for example, we have this angle right here to be equals to 6x. And then let's say we have this angle to be 5x plus 10. And then let's say this angle right here, let's say is y. And let's say this question, for example, let's say we wanted to find x and y. So for this question, the first thing I saw is that these two angles, they are corresponding. Why is that? Because the 6x is inside, the 5x plus 10 is outside, and they are on the same side of the transversal. So then it makes those two angles to be corresponding. So I would say that 6x and 5x plus 10 are corresponding angles. And then what do we say about corresponding angles? We said corresponding angles, they are congruent. So this angle are congruent. So which means they have the same measurement. So how do we solve this question now? So the first thing I have to do is, since I said they have the same measurement, that means I know that 6x is equals to 5x plus 10. And then I can solve for x. I can, collect the like terms and then I can subtract 5x on both sides. And if I've done that, then I have this one to be 6x minus 5x. I have x is equals to 10. So I know my x is 10. And let's go back in and plug when x equals to 10 into the original one we have, and let's see what we're going to get. So if you put 10 right here, then it means 6 times 10. So this is going to be 60. So at the end of the day, this angle is going to be 60. And then if you put 10 right there, and then we know that 5 times 10 is 50, plus 10 is going to be 62. And then we also need to find y. So what can we see about, y? So basically, we just learn about the vertical angles. So which means 6x, which means 6x, and y are vertical angles. So, and then what do we say about vertical angles? We know that these angles, they will be congruent, which means my y is equals to 6x. And then in that case, I just find that my x is 10. So I know that this is 6 times 10, and that is going to give me 62. So if I go back to my question, now I have this to be equals to 60, and then I can, go ahead and then let's solve the next question. So the next question I have is this interesting question right here. So looking at this question, we know that we were given like two parallel lines, and the question is asking us to find the value of x and y that makes m parallel to n. So the first thing I have to do is check if I have corresponding angles, if I have, vertical angles. So the first thing I can see is this angle is outside, and this angle is inside. They are on the same side of that transversal and of the same side of the parallel line. Then it makes that 3x. So we know that 3x plus 1 and 58 are corresponding. So we know that they are both corresponding. And then what do we say about corresponding angles? We say that corresponding angles, they are congruent. So I want you to get familiar with the word congruent. So congruent means they have the same measurement. So 3x plus 1 is equals to 58. And now we can solve this two-step equation. What's the first thing I have to do? I have to take care of the positive one. And then what is the opposite of positive 1? That will be negative 1. So I have to take away negative 1 on both sides. And once I do that, I'm left with 3x is equals to 57. And then my next step will be that I need to divide both sides by 3. I divide both sides by 3. And then if I had done that, then you notice that your x is going to be 19 for this question. So my x is 19. And then we can go back in and then substitute, 19 for x and see if they would be the same. And then the next thing I have to find out what y would be. So in this case, my y is equals to 58. How do we know that? Because we know that both y and 58, they are vertically opposite angles. So they are vertically opposite angles. So thank you so much for watching this video. So we're able to cover what we learned in the other video by corresponding angles and vertically opposite angles. So I'm going to see you in the next video. So please, share this with any student trying to take, SAT, any student in any grade level. And I hope this video is helpful. All right. Thank you so much. Bye. See you in the next video.